Well, welcome everyone. I am really looking forward to today's interview, and I think very quickly you will understand why. I I'm welcoming you to the Create Extraordinary Community Building events. My name is Clarke, and today my guest is Kelsey Formost. Kelsey is the founder of Magic Words Copywriting. She is an award-winning marketing expert who teaches entrepreneurs how to write words that sell without sounding salesy. That is no small feat. She's been in publications such as Business Insider, Refinery 29, and Glamour. She's spoken at some of the top marketing conferences in the country like Inbound and South by Southwest. Yes, her courses and templates have helped thousands of entrepreneurs learn to write their own high converting copy. But Kelsey's real mission is to help people find their true voice so they feel deeply seen, heard, and empowered every time they need to talk about their business. And also, make a little money in the process. So, Kelsey, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Gosh, it's so fun and humbling every time I hear my bio read out loud. And I think, oh my gosh, yeah, it has been thousands of people. And it's important. It's important to sort of pinch ourselves
Yeah.
along the way and look back in gratitude. So that was fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, you really have an impressive resume, and I'm sure when you started your career, you didn't have it in your mind that you would become this global phenomenon in copywriting. But I'm just curious to know, you've had an interesting career trajectory, like so many of us have. So, can you talk a little bit about what was it that made you realize that copywriting was the jam for you? And what would you say to our audience about finding their own hidden gifts? Because I don't think you realized it for a long time. So what
That's
was that?
very true. Yeah, that's a great question to start with. And I would love to level set the room by saying if you don't know what copywriting is, it's totally okay. I'm just going to tell you the definition and then we'll get into the journey. So, copy is just a fancy word for words. Copy is anywhere that there are words that represent you, your brand, or your business. So, it's businessy words. And copywriting is different from just normal writing in that it has a specific purpose. Copywriting is the art and science of getting your ideal person, your ideal customer, to take a desired action. So now I'll back up into what brought me to copywriting because it is a very fun story. So before I even knew what copywriting was, for 10 years, I was a professional actress and screenwriter. And I was successful. I was on major TV shows like Modern Family, New Girl, Days of Our Lives, the soap opera. I was in a movie with Zac Efron and Wes Bentley. I had on paper what many would call a very glamorous life, living the dream as an actress in Los Angeles. But as the years progressed, I became more aware of myself, more grounded in myself, the more I realized that acting and being in somebody else's story was actually kind of damaging to my mental health. And it started to be just not enough for me anymore. So what I did was I watched a lot of TED Talks on YouTube and I listened to a lot of podcasts. And I did an exercise that I think a lot of people who are in the coaching space will be familiar with, which is I did an audit of sorts of what drew me to acting as a profession in the first place. What was it that did light a spark in me that maybe it wasn't the same, but there was something about acting that made me come alive at some point. And once I did that audit, I realized that it was connecting with someone through a shared experience. When you watch a great movie, you're not thinking about the actors. You're not thinking about the director. You're not thinking about that stuff. You are just lost in it and you're going, oh my gosh, like I remember when my mom did that. Or I'm thinking of movies I love, like Wild. I remember when I felt that way, or, oh my gosh, this makes me think about something that I did. The best movies or TV shows make us feel something and make us want to take action in our real lives. So once I understood that, and once I looked at my skills and I thought, if I could do anything every day, what would it be? And I love writing. I always loved screenwriting, but there was something where I was like, but I want to be the one telling the story. I want to be the one making the connections. And to make a long story short, a friend of mine was a copywriter for a very fancy business coach person named Marie Forleo. And she introduced me to copywriting. And it was like the cartoon light bulb went off over my head. And I was like, oh my God, I can use storytelling and connecting with people to help people be themselves and have financial freedom because they're not faking it. They're connecting with the right people now. This is awesome. And so I started out as a freelance copywriter, and then I'm sure we'll get to this in a moment, but I ended up pivoting from being a freelance copywriter to creating more digital courses because I wanted people to be able to do more themselves.
Yeah. Yes. And I do want to come back to that in a moment. You started up and you talked a little bit about what copywriting is.
Yes.
I'm guessing there's a flip side to that, what copywriting is not. So could you talk a little bit about that with our viewers today?
Absolutely. So here's the good news and the bad news. It's the same thing. Copy is inescapable. Copy, like we said, it's anywhere that there are words that represent you, your brand, or your business. That means everywhere that there are words, there is copy. Your websites, your freebies, your emails, your blog posts, your social media, any words in the ether of the internet, that's copy. So the good news is, you know that, right? That it's inescapable. And the bad news is it's inescapable. So a lot of people have what I have found to be an emotional block with regard to writing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that our school system is set up, but also, and this is especially for women, the way that we have been taught to represent ourselves in the world. And we feel very nervous to actually be our truest selves. So what I like to do with copywriting is make it a lot simpler, give people some formulas, give people some prompts, and say, okay, who are you talking to? How do you normally talk to them? Great, let's translate that into a website, into an email sequence. How can we make who you already are the picture that people get from reading the copy you put in the world?
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. I like how you phrase that. You know, a theme that comes up over and over again with the people that I've been talking to on this summit is authenticity. And that's so central, isn't it? If we can't bring our authentic self forward, we're just not going to be able to connect with our clients as well. The message just doesn't land. Everything gets so much harder.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to know, for those people that you've just talked about who, for all the reasons you've said and many more, aren't comfortable, because there's a vulnerability that's required in that, of just showing ourselves as we are to the world. And especially when it's in print, there's a permanence to that doesn't exist with the spoken word in the same way. So what would you say to those among the viewers today, for overcoming that trepidation about being vulnerable and really letting one's authentic self shine in the medium of copywriting?
I love this question. I have two very actionable things. Okay. So once upon a time, I had a writing coach for a totally different type of writing. This was for book writing, a memoir. And she said, it was so great. She goes, well, Kelsey, the book that you write and the book that you publish are two completely different things. So if you are already judging yourself for writing that isn't even out in the world yet, just know that you're just writing. You're not publishing, you're just writing. Which brings me to my next very actionable piece of advice. Every time anybody sits down to write anything, there are two people sitting in the chair. There is the writer, you, and there is the editor, you. When it is time to write, the editor needs to get the heck out of Dodge. The editor has no business in the room when it is the open-hearted, vulnerable, almost like inner child you who is sitting down to go ahead and verbal vomit all over your keyboard. Nobody's going to see it. Just know this is just for you. This is just to work your muscles a little bit, to shake off the dust. Yeah. No one's going to be Shakespeare the first time they sit down to write something. And most people who are entrepreneurs, I have found, we are all in the overachievers club. And so we hate not being immediately good at something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we can just own that and be like, I'm going to write a shitty first draft. I hope I can curse. I'm just going to write a crappy first draft. And that's that. Then once the writer has done their thing and they've poured their heart and soul onto the keyboard, the writer gets to go take a break, take a walk around the block, drink a glass of water, take a nap, whatever it is. And then after at least 30 minutes, that is the minimum, then the editor can come in and sit down and say, okay, how do I mine the gold nuggets out of this verbal vomit so that we're showing up as ourselves and saying what we really want to say? It's such a great trick, in particular for emails, because a reason a lot of people hold themselves back from being consistent with an email list, which is really a shame because emails is where the money gets made, and we'll get to that. A lot of times people hold themselves back because they think, oh, I don't have anything to say. I don't know what to say to my list. I don't know. And we'll get to some ideas for what you can prompt yourself with. But I promise you, if you sit down and just start verbal vomiting, something is going to come out and your editor can come in, take the gold nuggets and send it to your list.
I love that. It's almost like an alter ego, needs to show up or needs to take off for a while and then come back. I've done a lot of writing, a lot of academic writing for my previous career. And I used to think there were days that just didn't feel like writing days. And there were days when I knew I had to get some done. So I'd sit down and I would say, like, I just need to write until the writer shows up.
Yeah.
Because the writer's off somewhere, goofing off or doing whatever. And once she comes back again, then we'll get down to business, but I'll just keep writing until she arrives, and you kind of write your way into it.
It's so good because if we wait for inspiration, we'll be waiting forever.
Oh yeah. I don't know how long I've spent hours staring at blank pages. Let me tell you. So
yeah.
Well, so let's start diving into some really, really practical stuff, because I know, and this was another part of your transition to getting to where you are now. You were doing the copywriting for a long while, and then it just became so labor intensive. You thought, smart you, I need to kind of create a system with this, and I need to create processes that I can give to people rather than doing all of this, like to sort of systematize it. So could you talk about some of those, and could you talk about some of the copywriting tricks? Because you must have just a huge quiver full of copywriting arrows, if I can use that metaphor, to share with us.
Oh, that's so great. Yes. So to answer the first bit of the question, what I was finding back in 2018 when I started Magic Words Copywriting was that the same people were hiring me over and over and over, and they were spending thousands of dollars. And I started to feel ethically not okay with it, because I was like, if they just understood a few key copywriting principles, they could write their own newsletter. Like, I don't need to be writing this newsletter for them. Like, they don't need to be paying me $2,000 a month. Like, that's crazy.
Now, I'm not sure that the business people would say, wait, what? You're taking business away from yourself, but you had a reason.
Here's why. Because I did some inner work and I realized I no longer want to be in situations where my moral compass is not pointing to true north. And I would rather create something that is one to many that I feel really ethically good about, and then have people still hire me for the bigger projects if they need to. So a lot of people ask me, well, Kelsey, what do you recommend for how often someone should be working with a copywriter? And my answer is 70-30, or maybe 80-20 if you feel like you're a good writer. And the 70% should be the more like everyday things like blogs, emails, social media. The 30%, the 20%, 30% is stuff that really does matter, where the science comes in of how do you, search engine optimization, for example, or a sales page where you really want to make sure that it's set up to convert, or a website where you're launching a new brand and you really want it to be like clean and buttoned up, and you're going to do it once, maybe like once every couple of years, you might revise. So in that case, it's super valuable to bring in a professional copywriter if you can afford it. The other times, if you know how to think like a copywriter, 9 times out of 10, you can totally do it yourself. And so that's how I sort of came to my digital suite of products, my number one offering being Copy Class, which is opening September 25th, Monday, September 25th. And that is a like comprehensive 4-week thing that teaches you how to think and write like a copywriter without being like teaching you to be a professional. It's for people who don't like writing. But that's, its own program. But templates also, and there are so many free ideas out there to get you started. And the very last part of your question was those, I love the image of the copywriter quiver of arrows. And the most important one that I can give people is, when you are stumped, think about your frequently asked questions and answer them in your copy. So anytime you're like, I don't know what to say, think about, what did somebody type into Google to find you? What are, again, the most frequently asked questions that you have? Answer one per email, or answer one per blog post, or answer one per social media post. That's like 3 months of content right there, Wow. Go to your competition. Look at their website, look at their social media, and see what people's most frequently asked questions are. Look at their testimonials, see what people are talking about, good and bad. It's really the most helpful way of thinking. If you can sit down and think, what does my ideal customer want to hear from me? If you can think that way, you will never run out of material.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And most of what we're talking about in this interview relates to the pillar of engagement, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's all about knowing, the 4 pillars interrelate very closely. Of course, engagement, really good engagement, only comes when you know your audience. You've got the tribe, your audience. I'm curious, as a little aside,
Sure.
Do you do most of your writing on a computer keyboard? Do you ever take pen to paper?
But I do take pen to paper if it is more, for lack of a better word, like spiritual or mental health. Yeah. Like if I need to journal something out, then longhand forces me to slow down.
Yeah.
And it also keeps it somewhere where I'm guaranteed to see it again.
Okay, yes.
Whereas I find that things can tend to be lost in the computer. Yeah, but I do write all copy on the computer. Yes.
You do, yeah. I'm not surprised by that, but I have found, and I used to tell students and sometimes clients too would get stuck, is just switch the medium you're using. If sitting in front of a keyboard and staring at a computer screen isn't working, go to a different space, pick up a pen and a piece of paper, I'm a fountain pen addict. I love them. In fact, I'm so old school. I even dip them in inkwells. I don't,
I love that. I used to
I
do that when I was a kid. I had one
yeah.
that was for poetry. I was a very, very serious and artsy child.
Oh, I see. Well, but I do think there's something, I think the brain is engaged differently when when we're using a keyboard as opposed to picking up a pen and actually forming letters based on
Mhm.
the thoughts we're having. I think that the brain fires up a little differently that way. So it can be a way of getting past a kind of stuck place. Is just change up how you're actually writing. What you write may just flow more naturally if you change how you're, engaging with the process. So I was just curious if you ever did that.
Well,
Um,
one other trick that a lot of my students who just hate writing no matter what, one thing that really helps, especially if anyone is out there who struggles with ADD or ADHD, is to use your voice notes app and pretend like you are explaining whatever it is you're writing about. Let's say you're explaining your coaching business to um, your mom. And your mom says, so honey, what is it exactly that you do? You're a coach, but what does that mean? Take your voice notes app out, pretend like you're talking to her, and just talk. And then later go back and listen to it and transcribe the parts that you're like, oh yeah, that's good. Like, that is really helpful if someone has a serious block about the physical act of writing.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. I used to ask sometimes because a lot of students, in my experience, a lot of people have their two subject areas that they struggled with and will tell you they hate doing. One is writing or English or grammar, all that kind of stuff, and the other one is math. And so
Mhm.
I would ask them, where does it come from? Think about where it comes from. And almost exclusively, everybody I asked about that, they can pin it down to one person, one event, might have been in grade 3 or grade 5, and it was Mr. whatever or Mrs. whatever
Yeah.
made some comment, and or a parent or some authority figure said something that made the child feel like he or she or they can't do the thing. And we take that on as a truth and carry that right through our adult years. When
Yeah.
in fact, and the other thing is that if you don't like a teacher or this authority figure who's trying to teach you to do something, you're not going to like the subject. If you didn't like your
Yep.
English teacher, chances are you don't like English.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because it just shuts you off from this whole big, beautiful way of expressing. So I just wanted to kind of share that and let people know in the audience. Think about that. Think about why, if you've got a block about writing, if you think you're lousy, where did that come from? It's not organic. Someone said something to you and it's not the truth.
Yeah.
There's so many people like you, Kelsey, and so many others that have just lots of simple, easy tricks and tips for producing beautiful copy. And it can actually be really kind of fun because it's creative and it's beautiful. um I we've talked about copy, we've talked about, well, I mean, we could talk and talk a long time about this, but I'm curious to know, for a lot of coaches within our audience here, they'll even just creating a freebie, the idea of having some kind of freebie as a lead magnet to help bring potential clients in can be a challenge. But you've got some ways of doing that makes it a whole lot easier and more fun. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a membership called BYOB, which stands for Build Your Own Business. And every month we tackle one needle moving aspect of building an online business every month. And last month it was about lead magnets. So I did so much research and I found out something really freaking cool. So lead magnets, there's a lot of very outdated information about what works
Mm.
because in 2020, when the pandemic hit and when everybody was home, we had a completely different attention span. And so a lot of the freebies that we were seeing, especially from celebrity coach type people, were these long, like multi-page PDFs or hour-long webinars or free mini courses that like had these fancy slides and it was very shiny, right?
Mm.
So fun fact, those do not convert anymore. And here's why. It's kind of depressing, but it's where we are. Because of technology and the way that the world is, our attention span in 2020, we had 1 second to capture attention. In 2018, it was 3 seconds. In 2023, it is 0.3 seconds.
Oh my.
Which is crazy. Now, here's something cool where you can use that to your advantage. The human brain recognizes words first. So when we look at a screen, if there is a big block of text, our brain will immediately go to that text and take that in. So if you can learn to write one great headline, that piece of copy, that one sentence, can potentially convert thousands of people onto your email list.
Wow.
And then the sales will happen in the email list. But I know I'm getting ahead of myself there. Let's talk about freebies. So shorter freebies are better. Shorter freebies make people trust you because they make people feel smart. They make people feel like, I did the thing. I got the information. I could process this in under 10 minutes. 5 minutes is better. And I feel great. I want to know what else this person has. Think of a great lead magnet as an amuse-bouche. It's a little tiny appetizer that makes you hungry for more. It is not a steak dinner. It is something that shows people, this is how I work with you. So one of the biggest mistakes a lot of my students make at first is their freebie is too long, too much information, or it's not related to their paid offers. So if you're a coach, think about, what is one offer that you have as a coach? Is it a meditation? Is it movement practice? Is it journaling? Whatever your thing as a coach is, what one page download could people have that could give them an amuse-bouche, a taste of what it's like to work with you? That is all you need for a high converting freebie. The amuse-bouche related to your paid offer with a great freaking headline. That's going to convert better than anything else.
That's fascinating. It seems counterintuitive.
It
You would
seems
think,
counterintuitive.
yeah, like at first blush, you would think if I give more, they're going to feel like they're getting more value. But if it feels heavy or effortful, or if it makes them feel like they're not smart, as you said, I love that. That's a fascinating bit of human psychology.
Yeah.
And I'm a little concerned about the trend. If it's what did you say, 0.3?
Yeah, 0.3 seconds. It's
Right.
3/10 of a second. And the thing is, the brain can take in a lot of information in 3/10 of a second,
True.
which, it sounds shorter than it is in brain processing time. However, what that makes me, how I use that information is to show people, first impression is the most important thing. And if you're not clear immediately who you are, who you help, why you're different, then you lose people. That's it. And here's another thing that I want to say about freebie trends that I see working. Because I want to speak to your point about providing a lot of value. I have seen more success with people who create 3 freebies that are short and give value consistently and give people that hit of dopamine like 3 times in a row. Those people convert into paying clients versus here's 1 hour-long webinar that I have to schedule and make time for and take notes with, and maybe there's a workbook, and hell, that is so much work. Like, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And the other thing I'll say is, it doesn't have to just be 1 page either. I say, like, max out at 5 pages. And that's plenty. That's plenty.
And that's not just 5 pages of of copy, though. That's some copy with some visual elements and some typesetting that's, interesting. And okay.
Yeah,
I'm
some
curious.
photos, some branding. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting. That's just so interesting. I do want to touch on next. I want to touch on building an email list. You've alluded to it already a little bit, but just before I do, is there you talk about that one first sentence? That's the thing that's really going to capture people's attention. Is there a length? Is it like a no more than 7 or 8 words? Like you don't want a 30-word sentence that's too long, or is it really more
So,
about?
so shorter is always better, but what I will say is you want the title to be clear over clever. So
Yeah.
a lot of times people want to capture attention by being funny or clever or a pun. I would advise against that. And again, this is more the science portion of copywriting. Clear, like if you can, make it a list. People love numbers. They love 3 ways to X, 10 reasons why. We love a list. So if you can make it a list, great. And if you aren't making it a list, then make it just super clear. Like, this is the problem I'm fixing. This is the value I'm delivering. How to meditate in 10 minutes a day when you're a busy mom. How to journal even if you hate writing. How to what questions should you be asking a life coach, or 10 questions to ask your new life coach to see if they're right for you. Whatever it is, just make it super effing clear. When you download this is what you're getting.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's really great advice. Because sometimes I look at copy and the first part of it, I have no clue what is this about even. So
Yeah.
okay, let's then pivot finally to email lists, because I know you've got some really great wisdom to share about how to build an email list in a way that feels not overwhelming and organic and natural and all of that.
Yes. Okay. So a couple of nerdy statistics to start. So people drag their feet on email lists more than anything else. And it always breaks my heart because sales happen in the inbox. And I know sales feels like a dirty word. It is not. Just think of it as people who are getting help. So conversions happen after someone has been exposed to you a certain number of times and trusts you. The nerdy statistic is people need to see something 9 times before they say yes to it, before they purchase. That number goes up if it's a more expensive offer, and it goes down if it's something that's free. So like someone may only need 1 or 2 points of contact to download your freebie, but they might need 9 or 10 to buy a package of coaching with you, right? It is nigh on impossible to drive someone to your website organically 9 or 10 times. It is nigh on impossible to show up in their social media feed 9 or 10 times. A message is 6 times more likely to be seen in an inbox, and it is more favorably received because people expect to be sold to in an email. But the key is making people look forward to seeing your name pop up in the inbox. That can be achieved through a myriad of ways, whether it's delivering value, whether you're doing a roundup of other people's content, whether you are doing like a Dear Diary style just text blast, whether you are telling funny stories. It doesn't matter. You want to make people excited to see your name in their inbox for whatever reason feels right for you. Now, all that said, the technology of setting up a list holds people back more than anything else. And I want to say, yeah, it does. You're right. It sucks. But once you do it, it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once you do it, it's done. Pick something easy that you can watch YouTube videos about that can literally walk you through it if that's not something that you have yet. Choose a simple provider. I like MailChimp if you're starting from scratch. And if you're a fancy pants and you want all of the analytics, ConvertKit is great. If you are a coach with courses, Kajabi's email marketing system is fantastic. That's what I use. Kajabi is an online course hosting platform for anyone who doesn't know. So we have all these statistics. We know that emails are the place that's profitable. So what you need is a great lead magnet, which we already talked about, a welcome sequence, which I like to call the high five, and we can talk about that if you'd like, and then a sustainable plan for how often you want to send emails. Biggest mistake I see people make here is they think, well, I'm going to commit to writing once a week, no matter what. And they do it for 2 weeks. And then they shame themselves because they didn't do it week 3. And then they think, I'm going to get to it. And then week 4 happens. And then by week 6, they're just, it's such in a shame spiral that they're too embarrassed to send another email. Right? So if you need to start with once a month, great. As long as it's sustainable, that is all that matters.
Yeah. And consistent. Great. And a really important thing, because I do want to get back to your 5s. I'd love to hear. I think another really important value in an email list is that you own it. So a lot of people will spend time on social media platforms. And the problem with that is that you can get shut down without any notice.
It's so hard to grow on social now too. It is so hard.
I think, I mean, the window is not entirely closed, but I think the really explosive, growth that happened on social media, it may be passing, right? Yeah. Not past yet, but passing. But I know several coaches just this week. One sent me a message saying, I've been shut down. I don't know why. And that can be frustrating if you're relying on those platforms to get your message out, and all of a sudden that platform is gone, at least for a period of time. That's really frustrating. Your email list is your email list. You own it. It's yours. So it can be like money in the bank because it's so reliable. So
yeah, there's a 44-to-1 return on investment with email. So for every $1 you spend, you make 44.
Wow. That's a good return.
Again, another nerdy statistic. I love them so much.
Okay, let's go back to the 5s.
Yeah, the high 5. Okay. So one of the most valuable things that every business owner can set up is a automated welcome sequence, also called a nurture sequence. And the reason it's called that is you're welcoming people to your list and you're nurturing them towards a sale. The best, most optimized time to get somebody to buy something is right after they've opted into you. So I call my system the high 5, which means you are delivering 4 emails that contain free value. And the 5th email is a shameless plug, shameless sale. Own it, go for it, do it. You've already provided them with 4 days of great value. So what that might look like. Email number 1 is your welcome email. You tell people who you are, what to expect, and you deliver the freebie, right? Or the lead magnet. Maybe the second one is you say a little bit more about why you do what you do, who you help, what lights you up. Maybe the third email is a blog post that you've written that a lot of people respond well to. Maybe the 4th email is a podcast episode, yours or someone else's, a list of resources, something else that is free value. And then that 5th high 5 email, I like calling it the high 5 because I literally picture high-fiving somebody through the screen, is, and here's how you can pay me to help you. If this sounds good to you, here is the opportunity for you to get some help. And that's it.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. And so easy.
So easy. And I do, if people are interested, I do have that as a template, both by itself and then it's included with copy class. So I just like to let people know.
you've really got, an incredible toolbox of resources available for people. It's very impressive, but you've had a lot of time to work on this and put a lot of
Yeah.
effort into it. So
I feel like a lot, yes, that's something that I wish I had really let sink into my bones earlier, that you can't compare yourself to someone who's been in business for 5 years if you're in year one or year two. Like you can't. Well, so you can't compare yourself to anybody else, period. But like it has taken, there's so many things in the graveyard of my my desktop of like things I didn't end up selling, launches that went terribly. Like it's wild. It's taken literally years to build up, as you said, this toolbox. And it changes. It changes all the time because
yeah.
the industry changes, what people need changes. So yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely need to be adaptable in this profession. There's no question. And all of those discarded efforts are not wasted because you've learned from them. Okay, this one
Yes.
didn't work. How do I adjust it for the next one? It's not wasted effort. So even, a lot of people think about the failures they've had or the things that didn't land with people, but it's all about growth and learning and adjusting. And it's not a profession where you ever really arrive. We are always shifting and adapting, so just know that. Oh, Kelsey, this has just been so amazing, so many great tips in this. Thank you so much. And I'd love for you now to share your freebie, since we've been talking about
Yes.
freebies. Share your freebie with everyone.
Yes. So I took the liberty of kind of compiling a lot of the things that I knew we were going to talk about today into like a slide deck. So I'm just going to make that into a PDF and people can download that
Oh,
in the link.
fantastic.
And then I also have a evergreen freebie that's always up on my website called How to Start and Grow an Email List, which for this audience I think would be super helpful. So you can access that at any time at kelseyformost.com/freebies. And I'm sure that Kip will
The
also
links
have.
in the, yeah.
Yeah,
Links in the
yeah,
email too.
exactly. And then the other freebie, if people want it, I do have, I kind of call it like a triage, like a homepage triage. There's 3 copywriting tricks that you can do in 30 minutes or less that will just instantly up level your copy and can up to 300% increase your conversions. So all of that is there.
Wow, that's a lot. That is so generous. Thank you very much for that. And truly, this has just been amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity and sharing your wisdom with us all and making it so much fun and just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Kip. Nice to talk to you.